Hey Audrey, thank you for letting me record your forehand and analyze this for you. I think you do a lot of really good things here. And I'm going to compare your forehand with Novak Djokovic as forehand, okay? And there's a lot of things that you're doing really well and some things that I would change. I think there is one primary cause that we need to look at. When I analyze your forehand, there are 6 things that we look at, but I look at it as in 3 categories: your grip, your body, and the swing. That's how I look at it. And that's what we're going to go with so far. So grip so far on the forehand looks great. You have an Eastern grip and your left hand is on the handle of the racket, which is good for a two-hander. I'm comparing your forehand with below. If you don't know who that is, that's Novak Djokovic. He's got a semi-Western grip, so his is a little bit different. And his left hand is actually on the throat of the racket, which to me I find interesting. Because I'm a one-hander and a one-handed backhand, so I keep my left hand on the throat like that. Generally speaking, a two-handed backhand, right or left-handed, will keep both hands on the frame. Okay, so the grip looks great. Your athletic stance, I think that you have your feet shoulder width apart. The only thing I would change about your athletic stance, or what we call his ready position, is I really think your knees should be bent more. Okay, and if you notice, look at Djokovic down here. Whoops, his knees are bent, okay, much more than yours are. I'm 6'3", and so my playing height's like 5'10", so I drop about 6 inches. So I want to see some knee bend there, and that'll just, in my opinion, help kind of activate those muscles a little bit, because you know you're bending and you're going to engage some of those muscles already. And I'd also like to see your hands off your stomach a little bit. I think they have a tendency, it looks like it's kind of sitting up here close to your stomach, and we want to definitely get rid of that. We want to keep those hands a little bit more away. And you can see with Djokovic, the hands are away from the body. And it's going to help with extension. And when you turn your shoulders, your hands are going to be able to extend to where they need to be. So I think that's really good. So when we go through this swing here, and I want to go with Djokovic's here. So the unit turn here is where we are now. Watch, his knees are turned. You can see kind of like how they're 90 degrees and he turns. And there's the unit turn. And what we're looking for is the non-hitting hand to stay on the racket face, on the throat, the strings facing to the side, your elbow out. And so watch what happens here with Djokovic. So we're here, okay, and we look at that nice forehand, and we see that, number one, the non-hitting hand is on the throat of the racket. Boom. The strings we want to point down, they will eventually. His are obviously not pointing down. His strings are pointed right now kind of up in that direction, and that's okay. What we talk about with a bent elbow, there's that bent elbow right here. Okay, and that's your back elbow is out. Okay, it's still out in front, and it's going to help keep that forehand, the racket on the hitting side of the body, meaning it doesn't get too far behind your body. So that's where we are with that unit turn. And now watch what happens on your unit turn. And this is where I think it goes array here. I think you start the turn beautifully. Here we go. Okay, both hands on the racket, and you're getting into position. Whoops, I'm going to try to move you here, and sometimes I have trouble with. There we go. Sorry about that. And so sometimes we have trouble with that. So here's what happens. Now with the unit turn, we want the non-hitting hand to stay on the throat of the racket. But watch what happens right away. Boom, right there. Your non-hitting hand's off the racket. Your left hand's off the racket. And that's going to decrease your ability to get that unit turn and that shoulder turn with your body. So that's one of the things we want to switch. And notice the racket, when you unit turn, watch what happens to your racket. I'm gonna bring Djokovic back here, okay, and how his racket stays up. And you and I talked about this, right? And here it comes. It's staying up, right, to that position. And watch what happens to your boom. Watch what happens. It dips right away. Your racket dips down, okay, and it's going to cause you to when the racket drops to lose some speed, racket speed, to generate power, top spin on the ball. It just drops. Okay, the left hand comes off, and so what you need to think about is this, as Djokovic does this too when he comes back through, is keeping this, you have like this imaginary bar. Maybe I'll just put it at waist level. And we did that with a racket, right? And it's like, okay, keep your racket above, keep your racket above that line, okay? And so when we do this, we want to make an imaginary line here for you, and you got to try to bring your racket above that. Keep it above that, okay? And that will help with the racket drop, and it'll help keep that elbow in position. So there are some things that go wrong, okay, because that racket dips. You're not able to keep that back elbow up. Because the racket drops, we're not able to keep the acceleration up. The left hand comes off the racket, so we can't turn our shoulders right to generate more power on the forehand, because it is all a unit. Everything turns together, and we kind of stop from doing that, okay? Now, it isn't terrible, but the drop is the big thing there. That's the big thing. Now, if you watch Djokovic now where the strings coming down to where we're equal. Look at that now. Look how nice this looks, okay? His strings, again, like we said, with the unit turn, or the racket strings are pointed down. Okay, so when the racket drops like it just did, see his racket kind of dropped down from top. He's generating, there it goes, it's dropping down. He's going to generate some power because the gravity's dropping the racket face down. Okay, his strings are pointed down. The butt of his racket is pointed at his opponent. Okay, and his knees are bent, and his left hand is above his hitting hand. So that looks good. His non-dominant hand is up there for balance, which is great. Okay, we need to keep that left hand up, and that's all due to the racket drop. Your left hand's a little low, but look, your butt cap's facing your opponent, which is great. Your strings are pointing down. They're not as extreme look as Djokovic because he has a different grip than you. Okay, so his is going to point more down than yours is. Okay, so far so good. And your knee in this one, in case your weight's here and your knee is bent. And what I like also too, we'll get into this, is your head is pointed. Look, you're going to be pointing at your target here. I don't know if I can get that. Look at your head. Look at his eyes. Definitely looking at your target, or not your target, excuse me, the incoming ball, which I think all is really good. Okay, so here is now that swing to contact point, and what I love about what you do here is that look at your weight transfer, and look at that weight transfer. Boom, you can just see it. It just goes back to forward. The weight is going definitely this direction, which is great. Okay, and I think that your contact point here is nice out in front of your body. I think that's really good. Okay, out in front of the body. You've got some bend in that elbow, okay, which is natural. Your hip is turned, which is great. And if you watch Djokovic, he does the same thing. Look, the only issue is still that left arm. But watch, he comes to contact point, okay, out in front of his body, okay. Okay, his non-dominant hand's above. His hand's pointing. His eyes are looking at the ball. His left hand is above the target. Okay, notice how his hips did turn if you watch. Okay, his hips now are kind of, both of these were two eyeballs here and here. They're pointing at us, and then watch, now they turn just like your hips do. Okay, you both keep your head down. Okay, we like that left hand. Unfortunately, your left hand is still a little low for my taste. Okay, we need to fix that up. That needs to be up higher. You keep that eye on the ball nicely, and then when we go to contact point, or follow through, excuse me, notice how, okay, it's behind his back. Okay, boom. And yours is a little high, actually. I would say it's a little high. But, you know, to help you with that hitting, that catching at the end, we'll do a drill where we just catch the ball, and I'll show you that later today. But overall, Audrey, I think this is a really good forehand, and I think the biggest fix that we can make is that racket face dropping. So today I'll go out in my driveway and give you some pointers on some drills to do that you can. So again, thanks a lot, and we'll see you for the next video. Hey Audrey, thanks for letting me take a video of your forehand. So I got to do things for my driveway to show you a couple of things you can do at home to practice this. So when I analyze your forehand, remember the big thing I saw is that when you took your forehand, instead of turning with that left non-dominant hand up here for that unit turn, and when you were turning like this, like Djokovic here, okay, what was happening to you is you were dropping that racket face down. You were turning and letting go with your non-dominant hand. It was coming off and staying down. Okay, that hand helps for rotation, balance, and follow through. Okay, so the big thing here is that racket was dipping, and so we got to stop you from dipping that. And so my daughter's going to help me. There's a couple things you can do. Now, we're going to use a pool noodle here in a second, but one thing is if you have a ball, you can really, with both hands on the ball, is practice turning like you're passing the ball to someone. And so you can turn in like if my daughter was behind here, okay, and you can notice how both hands stay on, and you can try doing it a little bit higher, okay? And she's got a noodle, and we can do it over the noodle. So if I have this noodle, and someone's here with just a ball, right, and you're in ready position, and you can turn and start it over here, right? Just turn, okay, even with the ball, like you're passing to someone behind you, okay? So that's one thing you can do just with the ball, just practice. And I've got my phone. You can do it in the driveway. You can do it in the garage, but the big thing here is making sure we want that non-dominant hand to stay on your racket longer. So I'm going to show you from ready position. We talked about ready position. Ashlyn's got this about waist high for me because I don't want to go underneath. And we talked about this. See how my racket here is underneath? We want to try to avoid that because you lose racket speed because, right, the racket goes back and it's going to dawn and pick up speed for the forehand. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit more challenging. Okay, so what you want to do is have some kind of obstacle, another tennis racket. We're using a full noodle because we have one. It can be someone's arm, which I maybe don't suggest if it's a parent or just holding their arm there. You're going to start in your ready position, and I want you to do 10 of these. Okay, so the first thing is making sure the racket goes above. So even if that non-dominant hand is not on the racket, that's okay, but I really want you to go here and freeze. Okay, keep that left hand on the racket. So I did notice how I did my turn. My unit turn. So ready position. Remember we talked about it. Remember turn 90 degrees, racket goes behind you and down, right? So you're going here, and I just want you to do 10 of these. And you can see I've got a great visual from my camera here. Okay, and that's great. Maybe about waist level. If it's a really bad drop, you might even hold it up higher. Ashlyn can hold it even higher than that, and then I can just be really, really high because it may be during match play you don't do it as high, right? But we're just working, so you can drop it down for me, kiddo, right here, and you're just going to turn here. Okay, then the second thing you do after you do 10 of those, I want you to do 10 of these. You turn, left hand still on the racket to that back shoulder. Look, my strings are pointed away from me, right towards my house, and then you're going to drop the racket face below the noodle, and then come through. Okay, and catch. You see that non-dominant hand? Watch my left hand. Okay, I know it's reversed in this camera. I hope this, to me it looks left-handed. I hope it works right-handed. Okay, so look. So 10 of these. You turn. Okay, but both hands are on the racket. You're going to turn. Keep it on there. Keep that non-dominant hand on there. So you get to this face, right? Strings are pointed here. And go down, under the noodle, and through and catch. Just like that. Really exaggerate. That's going to take care of that follow through with the hand. It's going to keep that non-dominant hand above, okay, the hitting hand. So again, 10 of these. Down and through. And the final progression, actually, you can slide out of the way, is then just practicing your forehand like someone, you pretend someone's hitting a ball, or if someone's feeding you a ball here, you would turn and hit your forehand, right? In ready position, okay, turn and hit your forehand, okay? So I hope those are a couple things that can help you really turn that forehand around instead of getting that drop. It's going to give you more power than you already have because you got a good looking forehand. So remember that key thing, keep that non-dominant hand on the racket longer. Don't drop the racket face, right? And at the end, we want to make sure that nice catch on the follow through, okay? So we'll see you next time.